Welcome everybody to awakeradio.co.uk. In our second segment, we've got Loesje Jacob again from Canada, speaking about animal consciousness. Her website is linkingawareness.com. And let's get back to it. Loesje, if you could please give us an update with regards to the projects that you mentioned in the first segment. Batam, Indonesia. Apparently you've got an amazing youth linking awareness project, or you did have still ongoing. Please, if you could just elaborate on that for us.
Yes, thank you, John. It's good to talk to you again. And it's a bit of a dream that I've had for a long time, is who in the world around the globe is mentoring our youth. And I'm talking about in relation to the ability to self-heal, in relation to their subtle sense awareness and picking up information through their subtle senses, and also in their humanitarian aspect of themselves, wanting to help their peers in their own country, but also their peers in other countries. And I was in Singapore teaching some body talk classes, and I ran across an amazing man. He's the general manager of the Harris Resorts in Batam, Indonesia. And he invited me to his resort to do some energy and consciousness medicine work for his business. And that evening I got there and we ended up having dinner and we shared our dreams. And I told him this dream of mine about bringing youth together from around the world to learn about consciousness medicine for their own personal selves, but also to help their peers. And he went, "Oh my God." He says, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." He says, "I have a dream. I've been helping the orphanages here for many, many years. But a lot of times when we give them things, it goes out the back door. Could you bring our dreams together?" And I said, well, I would love to bring youth here to bring basic healing concepts to the orphanage children and help them with their self-healing, because these orphanages are housing children from the tsunami, from Aceh, from the tsunamis on the west coast of Sumatra. They've lost their families, and the orphanages, they're private orphanages, they're Muslim orphanages, they're also Christian orphanages that house anywhere from 10 to 40 children of all ages. So he offered me that he would, the Harris Resort would sponsor the youth that came from all over the world, would sponsor their lodging, their travel, and their food while on the island. And then we would go to the orphanages. And so we've been doing that now. I'm going in for my 5th year. 2010 was the first year that I brought youth there. So it's the 3rd year youth coming from all over the world, learning healing techniques from body talk, linking awareness techniques, sometimes Reiki. Sometimes we bring in guest speakers that teach them sound healing. Jiro Go from Singapore donates his time. And then we go to the orphanage children and we share our time, but we also teach them healing techniques.
Fantastic.
Very powerful coming together of two dreams, of a general manager of a resort that has compassion for the people of the area where he lives, and now bringing youth from all over the world together. And adults, might I add, that adults are also coming and joining in on this youth linking awareness adventure.
Oh, fantastic, huh? Because that's what you're pretty much doing is what they did in the ancient times, is children would actually learn and understand energy. So that's
wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty much an awesome thing to reintroduce back to people, because I feel, there's a lot of metaphysicians, a lot of spiritual people that believe that all the old ancient ideas, not to say that the modalities, but the ancient ideas of thinking to balance the left, right hemispheres of the brain, which gives far better experiences and understanding within relationships on all levels. So pretty much that's a huge bonus to society. What you're doing, that's quite an amazing achievement, I'd say.
Well, here's the blessing in it all. In my perspective, and it certainly is my perspective, that the teaching comes from our youth and our children, that they come in very connected with a lot of memories, and as the so-called elders or mentors, we're holding space for them to bring forward what they already know. And therefore what happens is I get to learn from them. I'm supporting them and I'm mentoring mentoring them and I'm teaching them things I've learned. But in return, a lot of our youth have abilities and connections that they're not aware of. And in the teaching them, they bring forward what they've learned and they teach me. And they teach my facilitators. How powerful is that?
Yeah, fantastic. Because on your videos on your website, linkingawareness.com, I saw in some of your videos the one which really stuck out, which I mean, I think anyone that connects to it would put a lump in their throat. Is where I think it was 19 people went to meet and work with these 200. I think it's 200 and odd children. And at the end, where you said it was 200 and odd children that actually contributed to the 19 people that went, the 19 volunteers. And that's pretty much the theme, that we all teach a healer, a mentor to each other, whatever, irrespective of what we do. And it's such a powerful message, and it's such a humble one that you put out there, that we've all got the answers within us, and the youth are extremely powerful. And it's such an amazing job that you're doing. Loesje, I want to talk about the orphans, the migrant workers, and sex trade victims, because that's pretty much happening a lot. A lot of people have exposed this sort of industry, and how linking awareness supports and helps and assists children. How does it assist them if they've been exposed to such trauma?
I want to say I don't know, but on the other hand, I think that when some of the traumas and some of the things that have happened to these children and youth in our countries and in other countries, that these memories are sitting deep within themselves. When we bring healing concepts like the Body Talk System Access Program, which is 5 basic techniques that we teach them, that we give them a black and white handout. They can look at pictures and remember how to do the techniques for themselves. What starts to happen is that healer within starts to get activated, and they start to going through a personal self-healing process that starts to release those memories and those pathologies that are sitting within their system. So whether we stay for months or go in for one time and they start to work within themselves, all of a sudden the healing process is unfolding. And I think a lot of times that what's happening is they are re-educating some of these youth, be it the soldier boys from some of the places in Africa, be it the sex trade victims, be it the tsunami victims, be it the victims of cultural things in our own lands. Then what happens is the self-healing starts to change within themselves by giving them these techniques.
Yeah.
And the biggest gift that we saw happening was we had youth coming from all over the world who were maybe cutting themselves. Some of them were from very well-to-do families, and they wanted to go help others. By seeing the joy that came from the lives of the orphanage children, they themselves went through healing process. It was profound. It is profound.
Yeah, what you just described now, I classify it, when I teach my students or when I give talks, I call it self-activated healing, because it does. That's what we do. We get the information, and then our body just is the most powerful healer, and it does self-activate itself. So very, very profound for listeners to take note of that. And then also, is it Janvier in Alberta, Canada? Is it?
Yes.
Janvier? Could you just let us know more about working with the remote First Nations, Aboriginal communities, promoting the remembering and the power of self-healing?
And that was one of my dreams as well, is that it's not only about going into other lands and helping other people, but it's reminding our youth that we are here to help our brothers, our sisters. We're here to be of support to our communities and also other communities, remote communities within our own countries. So we've taken different groups of youth into remote British Columbia, Alberta, Canadian, Northwestern territories, communities, that don't have access to these concepts at this point in time. And so what we've noticed happening is when we go in and show them the healing concepts we're working with, they remember their own innate abilities, their connection to nature, things that have been taken away with them over time and being put on reservations. And all of a sudden, they're realizing that they never forgot how to heal themselves. They just had belief systems thrown at them that made them stop using those aspects of themselves. So now these communities are starting to go into remembering and helping them to let go of some of the addictions that they've got on a hold of them, whether it's prescription drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's gambling, whether it's sexual abuse. So now we've been able to show them that they hold that ability within themselves. It never left. It never left. When it comes back to them, once again, teaching us, once they remember about those different traditional ways of healing that they also hold within themselves.
Yeah, very, very important. So this to me is very much strongly in alignment with what the Ascension is all about. It's bringing back the 0 point consciousness, the awareness of it, and from there, pretty much manifesting your healing journey in a way. How does that statement resonate with you, Loesje?
I think we're going back to original memories and that have always been there, and they've been conceptualized in so many different words and forms and modalities, but we're going back to nature mind. We're going back to the original healer that grows a tree, that heals a wound, that changes someone's perceptions, and I think that's what's finally happening.
Yeah, and it's really...
We're starting to stop looking outside of ourselves. Yeah. We've been so programmed to look outside of ourselves for our healing, for our happiness, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a property, whether it's a partner, whether it's a pill, whether it's something we drink. We've been looking outside of ourselves, and we're finally going like, oh boy, it's within me that is that great healer and that great manifestor and that great changer of realities and perspectives.
Yeah, and just for the listeners as well, it's because of your conditioning. If something's always been there for you, it's easy to remind yourself. And if you've got belief systems, it's easier. Much easier than what you think to actually chip those belief systems away and come back to that great God, Goddess, angelic master self, which is what we're all moving into. So if you've got, I know there's a lot of people that listen, and some of the emails that are received, and you're pretty much in a bad state. But you're actually not in a bad state. It's so easy. It's exactly what Loesje, a lot of what other metaphysicians are saying, spiritual workers. It's easy to just break free. You just have to allow. I wanted to touch on Borneo. A lot of people, I've mentioned Borneo to them because obviously in the workshop you mentioned it last year. A lot of people are lost because they look at me very blank. They're actually not even aware that Borneo, a place like Borneo does exist. But there's some really amazing things with the orangutan project with Dr. I think it's Galdikas, teaching staff there, taking students to camp, listening and learning from the orangutans. If you could just elaborate, give us some insight on what's happening in Borneo with the projects and how involved you are and how often you visit.
Another blessing. So Borneo, some people would know as Kalimantan, and northern Kalimantan is Malaysia, southern Kalimantan is Indonesia. So we're going into Indonesian Kalimantan, so the southern aspect of, some people are still calling it Borneo. And certainly this started years ago when I was asked to do some animal communication and advanced body talk sessions for some orangutans at the Singapore Zoo. And in the Singapore Zoo, their matriarch orangutan, Ameng, had just died, and the orangutans were grieving. And they also had a very special Sumatran orangutan named Charlie, and they wanted me to come and listen to Charlie and also do some grieving work with the orangutans. And as I went in there, I had some crazy connection with Charlie, the orangutan there, and he made a request to me. He said, you must go to a small island. There's orangutans there that have something to teach you, have something to tell you, and also are asking for your help. And I went, I promise you, Charlie, I will find that island. And so I left Singapore Zoo going like, what the heck is he talking about? So over the next couple of years, I became aware of the orangutan care and quarantine center that Dr. Burute Galdikas has. And at the time, people said, oh, you'll never get there. She would never have you there. It's private. It's closed. And I said, yes, but you don't understand. The orangutans have called me, and Charlie has asked me to go there. So through a turn of events, I found out about an eco lodge through a veterinarian in Australia who has a group of veterinarians that have bought some of these eco lodges to bring awareness to the wildlife and the potential extinction of different wildlife. So they have an eco lodge, Satwa Lodge, which is in southern Sumatra, Rimba Lodge, which is in on the Sekoinye River in southern Kalimantan. So I decided to bring a class there. And through bringing a class there, I found out about Dr. Galdikas was just up the river. And so I was invited by somebody to go to meet her. And when I went to meet her, she said, what are you doing here? I never asked you to come here. And so she said, what are your credentials? I said, I teach for an international healing modality called Body Talk. And she says, yes, but are you published? And I thought, oh, my God, I'm published. Well, I've written some newsletter articles, and I totally forgot that I've helped to co-create some manuals for healing classes. And I said, well, no, not really. She says, well, then what are you doing here? I think you need to leave. And I said, well, and I took a big breath, and I said, Dr. Galdikas, I'm very sorry because I didn't know who you were. I came here because the orangutans called me. And she said, what are you talking about? The orangutans called you on a phone? On a cell phone? I said, well, interesting. Oh, yes. She says, well, and I said, I think what I am is a pioneer. I said, I'm out in the world saying it's time that we listen to the animals, and it's time that we listen to some solutions they have to the world. She says, oh, well, then it's about time, she said. I would like to introduce you to my staff, and I'd like to show you my care center, and can you please teach my staff some of the things that you're doing? So that was 2 years ago, and she just was up at my property in British Columbia having some quiet time with nature and my horses. And now she's invited me to come back with a few of my instructors to once again teach her staff how to basic body talk techniques for the orangutans, as well as listen to the orangutans, ask them if they have some solutions to the deforestation of the area, because the palm plantations are taking away the jungle. So she raises the orangutans to turn them back into the wild. Mm-hmm. Please, Born to be Wild. It's an amazing movie about her care center and the Sheldrake Center in Kenya, Africa, for the elephants. And so she wants to turn these orangutans back into the wild, but there's not much wild left because the jungles are being cut down. I've seen that the orangutans have information on a solution for that. And I maintain that our youth, who are very good at communicating with nature and animals, can come with me, listen to the orangutans, and share the message with the world.
Yeah, because nature does have the answer to everything, and it's good because I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it. It's still very, very slow, but science, mainstream science, there are a couple of I'm going to say amazing people that are starting to say, hold on, there are better ways, there are alternative emphasis on the word alternative ways to actually sort out the world's problems, and that is sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying absolutely. I was so blessed when I was teaching in the UK last year. I had a student. I dare not call her a student, but she did come as a student in my class. Dr. Jana Kawar. She's a quantum physicist from Oxford. She's an amazing, amazing woman, and she has a huge passion for the animal kingdom and their messages. And so I look very forward to doing some future projects with her because she comes from the scientific world as a skeptic. It's beautiful to have these scientists, quantum physicists, so-called skeptics, asking questions and pushing on the bubble because the animal and nature kingdom and our youth are ready to show the validation of what's possible.
Very, very powerful. And yeah, that is extremely powerful, and blessings to the mainstream science people that are actually waking up to the fact that nature does have the answer. and science maybe have a couple. But just and the size of these monkeys. Do you only work with the babies, with the adults? What do you work with all sizes and ages?
It's a good question. When we take my linking awareness or my advanced body talk classes up the Saguenay River, we stay at Rimba Lodge and we go to Camp Leakey. So Dr. Galdikas has 3 release camps where the orangutans live, and they have feeding stations because she monitors to make sure that they're doing well in the wild. So I take my class to Rimba Lodge, we stay there, and then we take the boat up the river, and we sit and we listen to the orangutans, and we learn with them and from them. So we don't actually touch them. We don't need to touch them because we're using the concepts of non-locality and quantum physics to connect with them. So therefore, we can receive healing and change from them, because remember, it's a two-way street, and we can also support them in their requests. This is not about forcing anything on the wild. This is not about forcing anything on the orangutans, but learning from with them and going through change or new status of equilibrium with them. So that's one aspect of the project. The other aspect is the private aspect, where I've been invited personally by Dr. Galdikas to teach her staff, as well as bring in a couple of other experienced student of mine to support her staff and her care center. So then I donate my time, and the people that come with me, we donate our time to share what we've been learning, and also, once again, to learn from Dr. Galdikas, her staff, as well as the orangutans that she is nurturing there.
Yeah. And then, Loesje, just for the listeners, because I did I did the one course, the basic course, if I want to call it that. But just for the people, just from your perspective, I'm going to say it's very, very easy to learn it. But just from your perspective on teaching people that have never, because I hear the same story over and over again, even for my workshops. They should have been studying metaphysics, or they should have been spiritual, following a spiritual guru or a spiritual path. And it's not like that. It's you pretty much we take people from zero and pretty much take them out there. So if you could just stress that you don't have to have any prior experience, No,
and I love this time, because for years people say, "Oh, you're lucky, you have a gift, you're gifted, wow." And I was like, "No, I don't. My gift is the courage to speak up, and that's about it." So the body talk system can be learned by youth of any age, adults, lay people, professionals. It just doesn't matter. And so this basic 1.5 day animal class that we're teaching, or the 1 day access, it's called Body Talk Access for Animals, is getting learned by children that are 8 years old. I have students that are 90 years old. They're having amazing results with themselves, with their animals. My linking awareness class, which is all about remembering that we have subtle senses and we can perceive information intercellularly, and we can perceive information consciously through our subtle sense awareness, which means that voice within from the horse is real. That means that the image that the orangutan sent me about a leaf that it loves to eat is real, is getting learned by anybody from any walk of life, and they're leaving with their whole lives changed because they finally realize those abilities lie within each and every one of us. They're inborn, innate. They're a part of us. It's just been laying dormant.
Yeah. And then something else which I just want to sidetrack with regards to, because when I did the introduction to when I worked at FreeMe, which is rehabilitating wild animals or people that have taken, which we spoke in the first segment about, and they discussed imprinting. What they discussed was the wild animals get imprinted, and they try and avoid that. So it goes back to, don't adopt just any wild animal because it's cute, because it's still small, because it does have some effect to it. And I think that's what, yeah.
Yes. I think what you're talking about is overhumanizing the animal, or anthropomorphizing them. But also, yes, when we take them in as a rehab center and we nurture them so they can be turned back into the wild, that has to be careful with different species that you don't imprint them to know that they come back to humans for food, because when we get turned back into the wild, they will go back into human areas, and then that would create conflict. So then how do you support these wild animals while you're nurturing them to be able to go back into the wild without over contact with the human? And I really believe this is where our new medicine, our consciousness-based medicine comes in, because we don't need to touch them to support them. We can give them extra support non-locally by never touching them and not over-humanizing them, like I talked about the Bear Rehab Center. So then we can support that with energy medicine. And what happens is some of these centers that have these animals that have been human raised, some of them actually could never go back into the wild. But I have a huge interest to see if some of our new energy medicine modalities can actually unravel the memory of that imprinting, so that they would actually choose to go back to their natural state and stay in the wild and live naturally. I have an inkling that it's possible, but I think we're still just starting to play with that potential.
And I'm just going to say, on an intuitive point of view, it's exactly the point that we discussed a little bit earlier on this segment, that if we resonate from our own true being, and we've been programmed as humans, or the animals have also been programmed or imprinted, it's easy to actually break and shatter those programs in a gentle and loving way. So for me, I resonate very strongly that things can be changed and brought to their 0-point consciousness, their true essence of what they really are, and obviously evolve further.
I agree with you, or I wouldn't be out in the world doing what I'm doing. And the beautiful thing is that we do have some very powerful modalities or concepts in the world today that are supporting that potential. And I've, for whatever reason, chosen Body Talk. And Body Talk is certainly not the only powerful modality out there, but it's definitely one of the very powerful ones that supports the deprogramming or the letting go of the imprinting that holds us away from our natural state of being, that living in the heart, living from our natural essence, which the animals also, I think, need to be allowed to do.
Yeah.
Just as much as us. Yeah.
Because also, just to add in with exactly what you've been saying and what we've been discussing, I've seen it with clients that come in, whether I'm doing individual or group sessions, which can be anything up to 120, 180 people at one time without touching them, and giving them energy transference is actually, I've seen the transformation. So for anyone listening, I know a lot of people, even the people that have sent emails, you've gone through hard times. That's because it's your experience. Another way to look at it is the person next to you might be going through something worse than you, but there are solutions, and that's what we're here for, is to give you ideas that you can follow. You can read, like with Loesje's website and the other websites from other guests. There are solutions, and you mustn't feel lost, because you've got the ultimate potential within you, your own temple. Loesje, I wanted to ask... Yes, please.
I'd like to add that by listening to us right now, this concept that you're talking about, energy knows no boundaries, and holding this conversation in what some might call sacred heart space, but frequency and information is also getting shared like the radio waves right now as we're sharing and speaking. So those people listening are also going through an energetic transference and change just by taking the time to listen to us here right now.
That's it. That's exactly it. And that's how powerful, exactly what you said for the listeners. That is how powerful consciousness is. And the new way forward, which has already started some years back, is conscious medicine, and we're pretty much doing it. Southern Sumatra, as you mentioned it, about the Asian elephants. If you could please tell us more about what's happening there. The teaching, the students, the elephant training center in Southern Sumatra, and to listen and learn from the elements, because like we've established, and for those that don't understand, nature has the answers, the animals, the creatures, the two-legged, four-legged, winged ones, feathered ones. They've all got the answers for humanity and this Earth's issues, because they are closest to nature than what most of humanity are. But if you could please tell us about that, that's quite an interesting topic, that one as well.
Well, it's extremely interesting for me because 25, 30 years ago, I had a dog training and dog grooming business and work with cats and train my own horses. And so sometimes I go, what? The elephants called me? I mean, I'm from Canada. What do I know about elephants? And all of a sudden, things happen in my life, and these elephants for Africa were calling me, and these elephants from Asia were calling me, and I was like, oh my God. So I'm, first of all, extremely humbled that the consciousness of the elephant called me, and I don't profess to say I know who they are, but they are amazing. They are one of the greatest teachers of non-local and energetic communication because they are so good at communicating with frequencies. So I ended up at one of these eco lodges because I wanted to go learn from the elephants in southern Sumatra. And so I got there, and for some people would have a very hard time because there are 63 elephants that live still in chains there. And part of the reason that they live in chains at this point in time is that the wild elephants are going after the farmers' crops, and it's a big problem there because the humans are encroaching on the natural land and habitat of the wild elephants of Indonesia. And so then there was a lot of conflict. And one of the projects that they tried to enlist is by rounding up some of these wild elephants and giving them a safe haven to live in so they wouldn't be killed or harmed by the farmers whose crops were getting affected. So they started to train them to do elephant circus shows and bring awareness to the elephant. But after time, that wasn't bringing a lot of people to bring awareness. So now they're struggling on how to bring that awareness to the plight of the wild elephants in southern Sumatra or throughout Sumatra. And so I ended up going there hoping to once again share some of the energetic techniques and consciousness-based medicine that I work with for the mahouts. And the mahouts are the keepers of the elephants there. Some of them have lived with the elephant all their life. It's family. Elephants are family to them. And the old way of working with the elephant is not always so humane, and so they're wanting to learn new ways. So I brought a group of advanced students there 2 years ago and wanting to once again go and help. And what happened was, first of all, getting there 18 kilometers out, we could feel the energy field of the elephants. And I was like, what is that? That was so powerful, an energetic bubble from these elephants. Once we got to Wakambas and with the elephants, I started to perceive from the elephants, they said, can you please bring more people here? We want to have a school here. We want to have a new kind of school. We want a mystery school. We want people to come and we want to teach them. We have wisdom. We know things. We're connected to elephants all over the world, and we want to share that wisdom with human people. Don't just come to ride on our back. We don't want to just have you do that. We want to share things with you. And so we're going to go back for our second time, and we're going to hold a linking awareness class. Anybody can come. There's going to be no prerequisite, so that you can learn once again to receive and listen to nonverbal communication, and the elephants will be helping to teach that.
Yeah.
It's profound experience. So we have a 4-day class, and it will be February 19, 20, and 21st and 22nd. And the information contact information is on the website if you want to come to that class with us. We will have myself and a co-facilitator, Carrie Lessick, holding space with the elephants. And it is my dream that a lot of the mahouts there would also join the class, because that's when I tithe and donate my time to teach the mahouts and the staff there if they want to join us at no charge.
That's fantastic. And then, Loesje, does everyone meet there, or is it like everyone has to meet at Canada and then move out? Or does everyone just meet you at the specific place that you've just mentioned?
We will give them the information of the Eco Lodge they'll stay at, so then their travel expenses and their travel plans are personal. And basically, I'm going to be there with the elephants holding this class, and then the people can find their own way there. But we will give them the location information once they sign the class. And so then as far as cost, it's cost of the class and cost of their travel and stay there. It's a life-changing experience. I can't even put it into words.
Yeah, no. When I watched your some of the videos that you've got, I mean, folks, please on linkingawareness.com, there are the videos there that you can look, and you can see how from the start to the end, how people just go through from an energetic level their whole transformation. I'm seeing it because I read energies and I can see it all through photos and pictures and names and all of that. So very, very powerful. It's just so beautiful to see how people just blossom at the end of the workshops.
Yeah, I love people like you that can validate that change, from that perspective, because certainly the students would say the same thing, but to have somebody at a distance be able to see that, thank you, because that is what happens. And I just also wanted to add that I'm continuously receiving and open to receiving donations, so that some of the youth that we mentor that really want to come on these trips and learn from these parts of the world, or also within our own communities, I do take sponsorship money so that we can pay for them to come with us. And you'll see on one of those videos there is a couple of youth, one of them Aisha Campbell-Payne, who also came on that trip with us and had some profound life-changing experiences with those elephants.
Yeah, and Definitely, and I've seen that as well. It's just so amazing the children that get sponsored, because it is the future is the children. I've seen sometimes when kids or teenagers are sponsored because they can't. There's just a different shift in their consciousness, and it's just amazing. You have to watch it. You have to understand it. You've got to be there. But anyone that wants to get involved with that. Please, for our youth, please, because they are the future, and they are bringing in, I'm going to say from a metaphysical point of view, they are bringing phenomenal energetic spiritual coding, which is so important for this earth. The children, please.
I thank you for saying that, because I do believe that these new youth, whether it's a 64 codon activation or their prefrontal cortexes that are activating us in the world, they are the ones we've been waiting for. And by just being in their presence and having them with us, things change. By bringing youth to the children in Indonesia, the information energetically that they transfer is profound. And I'm really glad that there's some of us that aren't losing sight of that potential that they hold for us and with us.
Yeah. And you know what's quite amazing, Loesje? I've met some of them, and I'm sure you can vouch for this through your work, and I mean you on the other side of the world. They've gone through some of the most horrific traumas, some of the most horrific experiences, and just the unconditional love that they still have is so profound, and humanity can learn just from these little things that are just ventured into the world, that have just started their life. Very, very profound, very touching, and very healing. The other thing as well I wanted to go into is linking awareness and linking awareness adventures.
Yes, thank you. So it's two different aspects. The first experiential, I don't like to call it courses and classes because it really is an experience. There's no prerequisites for people to take a linking awareness class or experience. And then what we're doing with a lot of our advanced classes is we're layering on exercises to expand their awareness that they are connected to everything and they can communicate with everything. And so we have a prerequisite for a linking awareness adventure, which means you have to have taken one linking awareness class. Now, in a linking awareness class, you're going to receive a color manual and a CD set with 3 CDs in it, which has a guided journey. I don't like to call it a meditation because it doesn't feel like that. It's a guided journey that takes us to heart space, but during this journey, there's self-healing concepts for self, because one of my things was, if we want to communicate with nonverbal beings like animals or nonverbal children, then we need to realize we're receiving that information through our filters and our belief systems. So if I'm not working on myself to let go of limiting belief systems, how could I truly receive information from an animal? So part of the process for the student or the participant is going through a self-healing process while learning to receive information. So we take people through that process in the first class, and we work with the CDs, and they take them home as a support tool. Because one of my things in a lot of classes was, when you're in the field of energy of a class, you have amazing experiences, and then you go home and you try and do it, and it doesn't work. Well, this is a support tool for them to take home with them, with 3 CDs that they can practice with. Once they've worked with it for a while, we have different locations around the world where we're doing adventures where we no longer have to go through a PowerPoint or the CD downloads. We go directly into working with nature and sending and receiving information and doing self-healing exercises while on these trips.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's absolutely. And something that I just want to mention, because I mean I've had that also running on my side. Just coming back to the people that want to donate, it can be pretty much anything. It doesn't have to be the full amount, but anything that can contribute towards the sponsorship, learning, just to support these kids and really get them out there and get your understanding of nature and your connection out to so people can actually have a better understanding of what nature really offers, because nature has the solutions to everything.
I think that nature and our youth have solutions, and they are connected to higher intelligences within ourselves that we're connected to that have solutions. And for me, it is all about just working with them and listening and bringing it to the world.
Definitely. And then, Loesje, any messages that, I know we spoke about the whales in the first segment, and you've just mentioned with the orangutans, but any other strong, powerful, I mean, I see all the messages from animals extremely powerful, extremely strong, so much wisdom from them, so much heart space, because that's all they understand, that's all they resonate. Any messages that animals have for humanity that maybe we haven't touched on. But before you answer that, there is something that I just want to mention so people can understand, because I know I've had people saying, but a lion, if I stand next to a lion, he's going to eat me. An animal can only know truth and can only speak truth. Because an animal, that's his nature, but through connecting, you can get that connection, that higher consciousness going, and things can shift and change. But they don't hold masks like much of humanity does. So the truth is through nature, and nature will always reveal what we need to know. But yeah, just coming back to any messages from the various animals, anything that you feel is profound to share at this time.
Well, I don't know if it's a message for humanity, but it's a story. I mean, and I don't know why this one is popping up, but I'm going to just share it. It's about an orange cat. And this cat came to my awareness through a veterinarian that sends me clients, and they were baffled by this cat because this cat would not go outside anymore, and it stopped eating. So the owners took it to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian was baffled, did blood tests, nothing. The cat still wasn't eating. And then it was to the point where they had to put the cat on a feeding tube or it would die because it wasn't eating. So then they did an exploratory surgery and did biopsies, nothing. No reason for the cat to not be eating. And so in the meantime, this couple who had 2 cats and no children, and the cats were like their children, had a trip planned to Europe. Now, these people live in Canada, and it was a family reunion, and it was a very expensive trip. But the cat was very, very sick, so they had to decide whether to leave the cat in care or go on the trip or not. They chose to stay home with their cat and not go on the trip. They lost a lot of money. So now the cat went to a second veterinarian, to a specialty veterinarian, and undergo another surgery. Still no reason for this cat to be sick. And the cat is still on a feeding tube. So the owners are home with their cat, feeding their cat because they love this amazing cat. So finally, they get a hold of me. Could they please come for a body talk session and animal communication, meaning I'm going to listen to the cat. So they bring this orange cat in on a feeding tube, and we start this session. And all of a sudden, I think I might be going crazy again because I hear this voice, and it sounds like this. I'm not really sick, And I'm going, pardon? I'm not really sick, I'm faking it. And I'm thinking, no way. What are you talking about? So this is in my imagination. I'm using my subtle senses. And the cat says, if they went to Europe, they were going to be in a car accident, and I didn't want them to get hurt. So I've been faking it so they would stay home. And I'm thinking, there is no way I am telling these owners that their cat has been faking this so they don't go on this trip. But I kept hearing this. I'm not, tell them, you have to tell them. So I said, excuse me, I don't know what your cat is telling me, but I've got to tell you, this is what he told me. And the couple looked at each other, and they went, oh my gosh, you remember, dear, we were so worried about that rental car we were going to have in Europe. Oh, we're so glad we didn't go on the trip. Thank you, Kat. And I'm just like, wow. And then I hear this other voice, well, you tell them now to put out my favorite food, salmon, because I'm going to eat it in another 5 days. I'm all better now.
But you know, things like that. I mean, I've heard stories. I mean, my little pet. Okay, obviously because I communicate with him telepathically, but the stuff that he comes up with. And also, I mean, he's also been for animal therapy through someone that's studied all your courses through the linking awareness. And I mean, the stuff that he comes out with, and you know, I mean, he still believes he's the alpha in the family. And no, definitely I'm the alpha. But yeah, their personality is absolutely amazing. And just for the viewers who maybe find it funny or don't understand, there's certain, and I'm going to say from experience from my little one, there's certain things that no one would have known, because I was the fourth owner in 2 years to adopt him. And the information that he passed on to call it the therapist, the animal communicator that Loesje taught, there is no way anyone would have known the stuff that he experienced, the stuff that happens at home. There's just no ways. So yeah, they do communicate and they do get up to mischief, and yeah, they can have quite an amazing personality. But it's yeah.
And I want to just, finish the story that 5 days later, the cat ate, and this cat is now perfectly healthy, going outside and having a beautiful life, and there was no trace of any illness to be known of. And I want to also agree with you about the animals and the things that they can share. And I also want to remind us that they are still animals, and that we don't over-anthropomorphize them, because a dog still has dog behaviors and a horse still has horse behaviors, and it's so on. And that's why they're a horse, and that's why they're a dog, and that's why they're a cat. But within respecting the fact that they are in an animal body and they have animal behaviors and animal hierarchies, we still can have these amazing connections and epiphanies and understandings with our animal kingdom.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, no, they are. It's just amazing to watch how they operate as well, and they can be very, very clever. And exactly what you said with the orange cat, they can play, but yeah, they can definitely play. Loesje, thank you so much for being on the second segment again. All the best. If you could just if you could quickly just tell us about Japan, because you're off to Japan. And this is a pre-recording before you leave for Japan. If you could just tell us quickly within a minute what's happening there, and just a bit of feedback.
Thank you. I'm extremely, extremely excited to go back to Japan. I do teach in Japan at least once or twice a year. And when I go to Japan right now, I'm teaching advanced body talk. So this is body talk for animals. The students that come to this class have already taken prerequisite classes, body talk fundamentals and body talk principles of consciousness. And the Japanese people are amazing. They love this work. They are profound at it. And so I'm going to be there teaching for 4.5 days, and I'm going to be doing sessions for a week with Japanese students. And I have a translator there. So I had this amazing friend, Yuriko, who is translating the class for me. And then we will also be working with some zoo animals and some of the domestic animals as well, because we'll have clients bring in their cats and dogs. Japanese people love their animals. They love their cats. And right now, I think their favorite breed is miniature Dachshunds. So I learn a lot about the Japanese culture and also the belief systems that the Japanese culture puts on their animals, which creates pathologies, which Body Talk for Animals is helping to unravel.
Fantastic. And then hopefully, if we can manage it, either connect live or just do another podcast, either while you're there or when you come back. Let's just see how you are for time, because I know you're extremely busy. And thank you again so much for taking this time just to share and get your message out there. Very, very